Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming on into the next session. We have an exciting demo ready for you, led by Kathy Chill. We're very excited to have you, Kathy. Thank you so much for joining us and take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here to show everyone a demo of Nectar AI. So what I'm going to do is I am going to share my screen and just jump right in. Okay. So to get started, what you're seeing right now is the Nectar AI Workspace. So I just want to share a little bit of information about what exactly that means and exactly what Nectar is. So think of Nectar AI as an AI platform or an AI infrastructure that's purpose-built for higher ed. And what it allows you to do is create completely customized AI assistants of any kind. So it's a super flexible platform. As we go through, you'll see that it's meant so that you can use it however you'd like, depending, and it doesn't really matter, what your level of expertise is with AI. Perhaps you're someone that's created all kinds of assistants and prompts, and maybe this is all new to you. We've tried to really create a nice UI, so regardless of where you are on that spectrum, it's also super easy for you to use. So what you're seeing right now is a workspace. Think about that as the institution. So the workspace would belong to the institution. And if you look at this, this is the admin view where I can see everything that's happening in the workspace. So if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see there's all these different types of workspace assistants. So you can even create an AI assistant, creating assistant to help you create your AI assistants. You'll see there's a financial aid advisor assistant, even a grant writing assistant, a salary negotiating assistant. So something you'll notice that you can really create any type of assistant that you want, whether it's for certain groups, like even for faculty or admin or for students, and you can determine who your audience is and who will be the user of those assistants. And then you can also create assistants at the course level. So that's what you're seeing down here under groups. So we think of groups as, these are the different groups of people that you want to have access to certain assistant. And so it just makes the structure really flexible. So let's say you have a scenario where maybe you have a course that has 10 sections. You can even create an assistant for each section. You can be as customizable as you want, depending on how your structure is set up. Something else you'll notice as we look at a few of these courses is that you can even create multiple assistants per course. So in this English Lit, there's a writing mentor as well as a course instructor. Pharmacy course, we even have a role play partner as well as a tutor. So it allows you to again, figure out what type of assistance you might want to create for your course. And it really just depends on your goals for the course. And then what you're seeing in the middle, this is essentially the student interaction or the person who's interacting with the assistant. They'll be able to see the assistant and be able to have an interaction. So what I'm going to do next is actually take you in the back so you can see exactly how you set up an assistant. So we're going to go to settings. And then you'll see there's a number of options. First, there's just kind of your general settings. So if you want, you can add an avatar. It's not necessarily an interactive avatar, but it's nice to have if you want to kind of have a character that represents your assistant, you can do that. And then you'll name your assistant, whatever, this is what's going to be facing the student so they can see the name. And then you'll put in the description of what the assistant's for. And that way, when I, as the end user, interacting with it, I have a sense of this is what it is, this is what it's for, gives me a general overview. Now, once I've done that, I'm going to go into the knowledge for the assistant. And this is where we really get back to purpose-built for higher ed, making sure that you can set guardrails. So as I'm creating the knowledge base for Nectar, I can determine what knowledge set Nectar is going to use for its interaction with the student. So I have three settings here. So I can choose document only, topic knowledge, or general knowledge. Now, what that means, if I choose document only, whatever documents I upload to Nectar AI, that is the only information that Nectar is going to use to have that interaction with the student. So you can see here in this case, it's a syllabus that was uploaded. That's the only information that I'll use for the interaction with the student. Now you can put anything in here. You can put textbooks. So your any kind of curriculum, your lectures. So whatever material you want in here, that becomes the brains of the assistance you can do. And just so you're aware, as far as supported file formats, so anything text-based, and then also we just recently added the ability to add both audio and video files. So that makes it really convenient. If you have a video you want to upload, you can simply put it into Nectar, and then that will be used as part of the knowledge set as well. Now, if I want to go a little bit outside of just the knowledge, and maybe I think, you know what, I want my student to be able to have an immersive conversation, and maybe the student asks a question that's not specifically related to my material, but it's still related to the topic. So in this case, it's calculus. Maybe as an example, I am interacting with the assistant and I talk about, hey, this is something I seem to have a real acumen for. It's something that's really interesting to me as I'm thinking about career pathways. You know, what might be some things I should be thinking about if this is something I'm really good at and interested in? Well, now the assistant can respond to that. And the reason why is that if you choose topic knowledge or general knowledge, now Nectar AI will connect out to an LLM. Now, something that's very important to note is the information that you've put into Nectar stays proprietary and confidential to you. It is not shared with the LLM. It is not shared with any third parties. So how this works is if the student poses that query, we won't share the knowledge with the LLM, but we'll share the query, the question with the LLM, and that way it can bring back a response which will augment the response that might be around the documentation specifically. Now, if I choose general knowledge, what that means is that, again, that query can go out to the LLM, but it will expand the conversation. So I might ask something that's not specifically on topic to calculus, and now the response can come in. And this can be really good if you just want to, again, expand the conversation even further. And you'll see when we get to the prompt, this is how you can control the conversation, but still open up that knowledge set. Something else really cool I want to point out is if I go quickly to the advanced settings, you'll see that now you actually can choose which model or which LLM you want to connect to. So right now we have GPT-4o and Claude Sonnet, and we're going to continue to add LLMs. What we're hearing a lot from instructors is some people have different opinions about which LLM they'd like to choose. It could even be based on the type of course. And so you can literally choose which LLM you want per assistant. So you may be teaching several courses and there may be a reason you choose a different LLM than the other. And you can always go back out. You can always come in here and change that at any time. So if you want to change the LLM or maybe even change the knowledge set, maybe bring it back to document only, you can always do that too. So that just gives you a lot of flexibility and control. So now once I have the knowledge set that the AI assistant is going to interact with, then I'm going to create the prompt. So a couple things to note about the prompt. This is really telling the AI assistant how to behave. So you can give it a personality. Maybe you want it to be upbeat, super supportive, whatever personality you'd like it to have, you can actually outline that in the prompt. And then you can be very specific about the interactions. So in this case, you're seeing we're making sure, hey, before you respond to a student question, make sure you clearly understand the question. These are guidelines that we want you to use in your responses, provide general strategies and concepts. What's great about the prompt is this is how you can really control the AI assistant from just answering a question. So if your situation is such where you don't want a student to just ask a question and get an answer, you're really trying to elicit critical thinking and have them think through concepts, you can control that all with the prompt. And this way, the AI knows this is how I'm going to interact. I'm going to give examples. I'm not just going to come out and give an answer. It could be, let's say it's a writing assistant and a student submits their writing and asks for feedback. Again, you can say, these are the guidelines I want you to use for your feedback. You're not going to rewrite it for them, but you might say, hey, you might want to think in this paragraph, that you want to do something differently here, or what, your thesis isn't really connecting to the next paragraph, or I'm not even really sure what the thesis is. Maybe you need to revisit that and make it stronger. So again, it really gives you that control over how the AI is going to interact and respond. And we do provide a library of prompts for you. So it's great. You don't have to start from whole cloth. You'll have a library to work with. So templates that we've been using that are best in class. So a lot of times it's great to start with the template and then modify it. And if you're doing something truly unique and you want to create a brand new custom prompt, we're available to assist you with that as well. So our goal is to make sure that whatever AI assistant you set up, that it can actually achieve the goals that you want for that assistant. So now I have the knowledge set, I have the prompt. One last thing I can do is I can create conversation starters. You'll see when I go back out to the student view, this way, if the student is interacting with the assistant, they'll be able to have, maybe a little guidance on how to get started. So when I come back out to the student view and I see this assistant, I may want to start with one of these conversation starters versus just maybe saying hello or jumping into a question. So it's a great way to get things going. I've seen instructors even have a conversation starter like, how do I best interact with you? So that sometimes is a good way to even get them to think about, how do I work with you? What can you help me with? What's the best way to get the most effective learning from you? If let's say I do what homework is due next week, if I pick that conversation starter, you'll see in a moment it's going to give a response here. And this way you can start to see the interaction. So let's say I get this interaction. Maybe I say, how do you recommend my best approach? So I ask, how do we recommend I best approach this assignment? And you'll see it's going to give me some guidance there as well to just help me in preparing as I enter this homework assignment. So again, it's this great, think about it. You have a learning partner that's now available to you. It's a way to augment the instruction you're getting in class, to help you with assignments, to help you really understand concepts. And really, the sky's the limit. So you can create even, learning partners. Maybe it's a role play partner. We're starting to see that a lot more. So maybe you're working on a case study and you want them to have an interaction about that case study. Or maybe you want them to take on, be in a situation where maybe you're learning how to deal with difficult people or negotiate in a difficult situation. You can actually create an AI assistant that takes on that persona. It could be the persona of someone where you're having a negotiation. You maybe even want to give them a personality, like, hey, this person's really difficult to deal with. They're not going to be open to kind of seeing other points of view, and it helps the student learn how to have these role plays. And then you can create the assistant so that it can give feedback on the role play, so that it can learn, the student can learn and then maybe go back. So it really gives them a lot of options. Um, and then one thing I'm going to share too is if I go over to what the student can see, so you can see I have my interaction. Now, if I want to at any time go back and just look at the history of interactions that I've already had, I can click here on history, and that way it'll bring up history. I can see all the interactions I've had. They show up in date order, but I may choose to rename them just to make it easy. So I had a conversation about limits and I renamed it limits so that way I can find that really quickly. And then I can pick up right where I left off if I like. Um, so it just makes sure that I always have these available. Now I can also export these conversations so that I can keep them. And I can also export them if, let's say, an instructor says, hey, I'd like you to have a conversation with the assistant, and part of your assignment is you're going to actually submit that conversation. That way the student has the ability to do that. Um, Now, along those lines, we purposely crafted this so that this conversation between the student and the AI assistant is actually a one-on-one conversation. So it's a conversation only between the student and the assistant. Their fellow students are not seeing the full text of the conversation, and the full conversations are not being shared with the instructors. Now, I bring this up because this is intentional. What we have been finding is that this actually helps facilitate learning. It makes the student more comfortable. Hey, maybe I have to ask this question 5 times to get it. I don't have to feel stupid or maybe like I'm bugging someone. So we've made it a one-on-one conversation. Now, with that said, we have a lot of questions, as you can imagine, around, well, how do I have visibility into what's going on? Are they using the assistants? What's happening with the assistants? So what we've done is we've built out an analytics dashboard. So if I go to the dashboard here, what you'll see first at a basic level, we wanted to make sure that you could understand who's using it. So let's say I have 30 students in my course. I would like to understand who of my students have actually been interacting with the assistant and maybe how many messages. So that's what you're seeing here on the right-hand side. It's a great way too. Maybe you see that you have some students who haven't used it at all. You might want to reach out and encourage them or remind them, hey, this is a resource for you. The other thing now that we're surfacing are key topics. So you can see what are the top topics being discussed. So in this case, you're seeing there's a lot of questions around the course deadlines or midterm preparation. So if you start to see themes, it gives you the opportunity to realize, hey, maybe I need to follow up. Maybe there's an area my students are getting stuck on, or it seems this is a recurring question. Is it something I should address in lecture? Is there a way that I should be better emphasizing or getting this material across? And we're going to continue to build out this dashboard. So we're getting a lot of feedback from various institutions using the product and also instructors. And it's helping us understand like what's most important to surface in a really easy to use way that's visual so that you can make some decisions. So you'll continue to see this dashboard get built out over time. So now you've seen the student view, the student interaction, you've seen the analytics dashboard. I think you have a pretty good sense of, hey, this is how I actually set up an assistant. Um, Again, there's all kinds of different options for assistants. So in addition to course level, I always like to point out that because really the sky's the limit, if you start to think about, well, maybe I would like to have, let's say, a writing tutor assistant, but not just in my course, but maybe across campus for every single student, or maybe every student in a department, you can do that. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in who has access and for what. And you also can see there's these other use cases that maybe are even outside student facing scenarios. So like this grant writing assistant. So when you set up Nectar AI, it can be used for faculty, it can be used for admin. We're starting to see operational efficiency use cases where administrators want to be able to upload data and use an AI assistant to help them query and get information and analyze that data. And kind of a really cool use case scenario that I was just discussing with someone the other day is they were mentioning, hey, you know what? We have a lot of adjunct professors. We're constantly having to make sure that they understand how to use Canvas. Like that's our LMS. They need training on that. And right now they have resources and guides, but it's kind of a pain for them to always find it. And so they're creating an AI assistant on how to use Canvas directly for the instructors. So what's great is the instructor, rather than me maybe searching for information, I can just go to the assistant and say, hey, how do I get started? Or how do I make sure this course is set up properly for my students? Or even how do I get access? Whatever it might be. And so they have kind of this one-stop shop to get all of their information. I think another really cool use case just talked with a school about yesterday. This is a community college, and one of the problems they're trying to solve is they're saying, we have these students that are here and they're already thinking about, okay, I'm getting to the end of all of this work, and now I need to think about transferring to a 4-year. It feels pretty overwhelming. I'm trying to get all my work done. I need to think about where I'm going. What do I need to do apply? Am I thinking about my timeline properly? And so they have created a program around this, actually to help students. And what they're realizing is that in addition to just the little bit of kind of class time you have in meeting with their advisor, the students really need to know 24/7, where do I go to get this help? So they're going to create AI assistants that are all around, how do you think about preparing to transfer to a 4-year school, all the way from how should I research schools that teach the different degrees I might be interested in? Where do I go to find that information? What I do that, like, what are some best practices around submitting applications? Things like I didn't know, what do I have any ability to negotiate, as far as what my out-of-pocket costs are. So they're going to create an AI assistant around this to really help facilitate that transfer process. So hopefully this is kind of opening up your mind to all the different options and opportunities that Nectar might provide. Um, I also get asked this question a lot, so I thought I would answer it up front and then open this for Q&A. But how are we different than maybe other chatbots or AI assistants that you might see out there? And a few things. Again, we are purpose-built for higher ed. We're solely focused on higher ed. We started to realize higher ed has very unique requirements that are even different than K through 12. So we want to stay focused there. Our staff includes educators, so we really understand your point of view, the challenges around education. So we bring that knowledge set. We do work with instructors and institutions to give them the guidance and setting up the AI assistants, to setting up those prompts. The analytics also, we're really working hard to make sure we're surfacing really actionable insights. And we'll continue to do that, not only at the instructor level, but we're also going to be building out insights. So at an administrative level, you can start to see what's happening across all the courses, even across campus. So those are the things that we think really, really makes us stand out and different, that it's really not just a chat bot, but it's a true learning partner. And our lofty vision of where we ultimately want to go with this is that we will reach a point where students will really have this learning partner that's not just isolated to a course or maybe to the campus or to the type of assistant you set up, but it will become really their learning partner that goes with them through their journey as they're going through the educational journey. And the AI assistant will know what they've already learned, know what classes they've already taken, and be able to take that information and support them going forward. So we're still a little ways out, but we know that's where we're going, and we just see the opportunity for really harness the power of AI in a great way that again facilitates critical thought and learning, not to be used to, hey, I go to GPT and get an answer, but this is how it helps me learn how to learn and to get this information and really augment everything they're getting directly from their instructors. Um, so with that said, I'll open it up. It looks like we may already be getting a few questions coming in from the chat. A
Kathy.
question. Oh yeah, go ahead.
On the topic of why we designed Nectar for higher
Yep.
ed, there's a question in the chat on what would preclude Nectar from using it for grades 11 and 12 and maybe even other K-12 grades.
Ah, excellent question. So we definitely would not preclude that, and we are being asked that more and more. I think when you look specifically at grades 11 and 12, the great news about that, a couple things like right out when we think about compliance, we aware that if you are going to those younger ages, COPPA is really critical. What's great is when you're grades 11 through 12, that's not applied. They're old enough at this point that the FERPA compliance, all the compliance that we have is appropriate for students that age. So it's certainly student appropriate. And I think where there could be some use cases there that would make sense is, let's say I'm preparing, right? I'm preparing for college. It would be a way for them to start learning to interact with AI, understand AI. And then also we know that there's dual enrollment oftentimes where I may still be in high school and I'm already taking college level courses. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point we serve some of those use cases, but I think we see that more of, kind of an expansion of higher ed versus going down to, let's say, like grade school. So great question. I think that's where we see that could be encompassing. And it made me think something else is, in addition to these assistants really being there to support students, it's also really helping students develop their own AI literacy and understand how to effectively use an assistant. So something that we're seeing more and more in supporting use cases, we have had instructors say, hey, in addition to creating assistants for my students to interact with, I'd like them to have the opportunity to learn how to create their own assistants, understand what it means to create a prompt, what it means to create the knowledge set, what it means to set up guardrails. And so we do support those scenarios as well, and have quite a number of institutions doing that. And so we can support anyone in setting that up as well. Because that's key, right? Is AI's here, it's not going anywhere. Students are going to need that as they go out into the workforce. And the more education we can provide about how to truly leverage it in the most effective way, the better. So that's a really big goal for us. Any other questions that I can answer? Anything at all?
I just had one pop into my mind. In terms of accessibility, what ways do you see this becoming a tool for students who have those types of accommodation needs?
Great question. So that's really important to us. I mean, we do have our VPAT. In fact, we just went through a pretty rigorous accessibility assessment. We're in the middle of a large pilot with the California Community College system, and so that's a critical piece. So we're waiting to get our results back and then see what additional changes we might need to make. And then things that we're also doing right now, as you can see, the conversation right now, if I'm having that conversation with the assistant, it's really text only right now. And so we are working to support multiple modalities that is on our roadmap. So you could get to speech to speech, speech to text. So start to think about all the different, like that's obviously a key accessibility piece that we want to add. And we're going to continue to do that. I know our CTO always says, my goal is to get us to 100% accessibility, whatever that means. That's what we need to do. So we definitely have that at the forefront because we want to make sure we're always trying to level the playing field. I think something that the Nectar team talks about a lot that's important to us is we want to make sure this doesn't become a tool that somehow ends in the hands of only certain people and not others, and that certain demographics, whether it's socioeconomic, maybe the geography, they don't have the same access. So we work really hard to think about that so that it's really serving all students and not just a subset of students. And I think there was a question about, again, that multiple modalities, and we're definitely moving in that direction. We don't have it yet, but it is on our nearer term roadmap. And we know we're already seeing that in the LLMs, right? They're getting more and more sophisticated all the time. So you'll definitely see that start to be baked right into Nectar. Is this embedded in LMS? Yes. So what's really great is we can do an LTI integration with your LMS. And so a couple things that's cool about that, we have the roster sync. So if I'm the student and I'm enrolled in certain courses and they have AI assistants, I just automatically get enrolled in those AI assistants. So I'm not having to go and do anything separately. It keeps it all one nice seamless process. And then we recently launched what we call iframe embed. So what's nice about that is, let's say, so when I'm in the LMS and I'm in my course, I can launch Nectar right from there, and then it launches Nectar, but I stay within the LMS. So I'm not leaving that interface, which we're learning is really key. Anything at all that's kind of a step or a click away for the student, you can lose some students. So this way it's staying right in. If they're used to, hey, I'm working within Canvas or D2L or whatever it might be, I stay within that experience. I don't leave it. I literally just click on my assistant. I'm able to interact with the assistant, but not leave the LMS at all. So we can set that up, if your campus, and we can set that up whether you're doing like a campus-wide deployment, or let's say it's even a certain number of instructors or courses at a campus, we can still get that set up so you have that really nice seamless experience for the students.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I think that's pretty much our time now. You've shared a ton of great information with us. I encourage you all to connect with Kathy or Chloe or anyone at Nectar if you have further questions, and we'll see you in the next session. Thanks for joining.